Just 15 days before bigger warnings on tobacco products were supposed to come into effect, the Parliamentary Panel on Tobacco has asked for, or rather recommended, that the size of these warnings be reduced to 50%. Now, is this going to protect the larger interests of citizens or just the tobacco industry? That seems to be the big question tonight. But first, my colleague Siddharth Pandey joining us with some of the arguments that were put forward by tobacco companies. That's who the Parliamentary Panel also listened to when it was coming to its conclusion. Siddharth, what do you know? What more can you tell us?
You know, what's really interesting is the fact that this entire issue has been raised about the size of the pictorial warnings. The health professionals are absolutely clear that we need bigger warnings. The health ministry is absolutely clear that from the 1st of April, we will get 85%. But of course, the parliamentary panel today has said we need to reduce that size from 85% to 50% on all cigarettes, and on BDs, only on one side will the warnings appear. Now, the problem with that, of course, is the fact that in shops like this behind me which sell tobacco products, the shopkeeper will never show you the side on which that warning is pasted. Now, what's really also interesting is that emerging from this report, a 103-page report, some of the arguments that the tobacco companies had put, this is from ITC, and they have deposed before the committee saying that the current graphic health warnings have been found to be adequate to inform and caution the consumers. There is also no evidence to suggest that large graphic health warnings reduce consumption. So if that's the argument, then why even oppose this? Godfrey Phillips, which is also a tobacco major, says to the committee, the purpose of a warning is to caution or warn, but not to shock the consumer. The proposed warnings are gruesome, highly excessive, and virtually amount to terrorizing a consumer, is what Godfrey Phillips told the committee. And what's really also interesting is the committee itself, while it says that reduce the size of the warnings from 85% to 50%, it's actually questioned the government's seriousness in tackling tobacco. And it says that the fact that the government's not really spending too much on getting people to cease using tobacco casts a doubt on the government's seriousness to tackle tobacco.
All right, Siddharth, thanks very much indeed for joining us with those details. Let's take this straight across to our panelists. With us from the BJP, Babul Supriyo, Minister of State for Urban Development, is still with us. Dr. Harit Chaturvedi, Chairman, Max Oncology, Max Healthcare, with us. Rahul Joshi, the advocate who petitioned for larger pictorial warnings on cigarette packs in the first place, also joining us tonight. Dinesh Bhai Trivedi, Lok Sabha MP and former Minister of State for Health and Family Welfare, and someone who has very strong views on tobacco as well. But Rahul Joshi, let me begin with you. What made you petition? Okay, we'll try and go across to Rahul Joshi in a bit, but Babul Supriyo, let me start with you. While the world is moving towards harsher tobacco control, why is India seeming to be running in the opposite direction?
I really don't think so. You know, when parliament panels, they discuss everything. What is important, what I have found as a new politician, what is important for them is to bring all the points on the table. Okay. If you cannot be a panel which is already biased against or for some kind of an argument. Okay. So they must have put in their own suggestions, or they must have put in their points on the table as have been brought to them by the tobacco companies. But I genuinely feel that even that it is meant, those ads are meant to terrorize people, because tobacco use has a terrifying effect on the human body. Yes. And I just want to bring in one point without sounding sexist. I think the rate at which women have taken into smoking is absolutely alarming in India. I would say somewhere over the world, in India, I find every second woman, there is nothing, nothing prejudiced against it, but it's definitely harmful to the present and the future, and therefore the tobacco ban should get even more harsher.
Dr. Harit Chaturvedi, would you agree with the latter part of that argument? Is this, essentially, it boils down to this. When a parliamentary panel recommends larger or smaller warnings, what is it? Is it essentially in the interest, the larger interests of citizens, or should it not matter? Should the size of the warning
So I'm very happy that Supriyo said this, that it is definitely something harmful. It is something which is not, which civil society has actually fought for more than 30-40 years to bring in so many laws against tobacco. Yes. So we all agree in principle that yes, tobacco is a harmful product, and unfortunately,
well, the tobacco companies don't seem to agree.
No, they also know that. They also know that. The moment you agree that it needs a warning, you mean somewhere you agree that there's something wrong in it. And once you agree, now the point is how far to go. Now we have banned advertisement, we have banned so many things. To my mind, it's almost on the verge of a ban. How far it will take, how long it will take is a different matter altogether. Now, as far as pictorial warnings are concerned, on one end somebody said that these don't matter. Because these, when Siddharth was reading his report, he said some tobacco companies said that this warning is good enough. More than this, don't matter. If it doesn't matter, why you fight so much? Then let it be. Let what the civil society or the people who believe that a bigger pictorial warning will actually educate people in a stronger way and send a strong message that what you are buying is more harmful than useful. So
Dinesh Trivedi, let me just throw to you some of the arguments that we've been hearing from the tobacco companies. They're saying pictorial warnings, the fact that the government, or rather, okay, let me actually, bring you on a larger point. The point really about conflict of interest, because we've seen several people, including a member of this parliamentary panel, who actually has an enormous bidi company of his own. And we hear that he wasn't part of recent meetings of the panel. But doesn't this raise serious questions about conflict of interest?
See, I will just go, and you have said it all. So I'm going to just tell you on the points why are we deliberating all this?
Yes.
Number one, you ask any doctor, anybody who's knowledgeable on tobacco and the ill effect of tobacco, everybody will say is bad, bad and bad. Number one. Number two, why are we have so strict laws that if you smoke in any of the public places, you are punished? So all I'm trying to get is tobacco is bad for health, period. Right? And if it is bad for health, we are trying to find out ways and methods where the consumption of tobacco gets reduced. But the lobbies which are there, which has conflicting interest, they are so strong that their influence on subordinate legislation or government is so strong that people who are knowledgeable, their voice is heard, which is very feeble. Now, I would like to ask you one question. If only this panel had gone to Tata Institute of Cancer in Mumbai, have they spoken to people who are suffering from cancer and who are crying with folded hands that please tell people not to use tobacco? And tobacco means not only cigarette, means bidi and chewing tobacco also.
Yes, well, Dr. Chaturvedi on our panel is also an oncologist and I'm sure will agree with you over there. But let me...
The unfortunate part is that these people do not see suffering patients. The policy makers, if they go around this hospital, as he rightly said, they just take one round of a big cancer hospital, they will realize the price we are paying. The people who are getting orphaned, the children, the families are getting destroyed by tobacco. And just because of vested parties, people, and as you said, conflict of interest, this is gross misappropriety. They have to just say that this is harmful and we have to go as much as we can to stop it.
But Mr. Trivedi, come in on this because you've been a former Minister of State for Health and Family Welfare as well. Have you personally then come across attempts by lobbies to influence government policy on all of this? Where do you stand on that?
See, first of all, I've been to Tata Hospital several times. Okay?
Right.
And I know what is agony. That's number one. So I'm telling with my experience.
Yes.
Number two, I'm telling with my experience of passive smoking when you used to travel in airline. Thirdly, I'll tell you, there are 10 lakh people who die every year in India.
Because of tobacco.
And they are of middle age. They have children and they have parents. At this time, they should be looking after their parents.
Right. No, I don't think any of those facts are in dispute. Sir, I don't think any of the facts are in dispute.
Sorry?
But I want to just...
I would tell you one thing.
Yes.
Having stayed in Bombay for so many years, I have visited Tata Hospital several times.
Yes.
No, it's not. And I'm telling you, the gothic nature of the youngsters who are suffering with absolute proof that it is tobacco which has caused that.
Okay.
Trust me, even on the road when I see someone
I want to bring this
buying,
back to no one is in dispute about the conflict of interest.
yeah, I think the
what is
picture
the
should
real
be on both
question
the
then?
sides.
The real question
If
here is about whether this is in public interest or not.
That's
Let's
exactly
come back
what I'm
to that
saying.
decision.
That's what I'm coming to.
And is that because of conflict in,
if we are
of interest
saying-
on the panel?
If we are saying that harsher punishments can be a deterrent to heinous crimes,
Yes.
then harsher or more terrorizing ads in the same logic
Yes.
should definitely be a deterrent for people going to tobacco, going towards tobacco. So I think I would apply the same logic in both ways, and definitely if there have been great cricket tournaments, Benson and Hedges Cup, which India had won. Look, in other countries, the tobacco companies have not been so very aggressive in trying to promote tobacco and ask the government to bring down the terrorizing levels of ads.
Terrorizing.
Yes, I would say so. So let people be terrorized, let people understand, and let them visit Tata Hospital for once. That's it.
Okay, Rahul Joshi, you actually petitioned the Rajasthan High Court about this, asking for larger pictorial warnings. Now, let me just throw to you some of the arguments that the MP's panel has given. They feel that it's sufficient to just have 50% of tobacco product of the tobacco product with these warnings, limiting the warnings to just 50%. They want pictorial warnings on only one side of bidi packs, Zarda and Kenny and mystery packs. They're saying this is because this has the potential, the larger pictorial warning has the potential to severely affect Indian farmers, tobacco farmers, as well as Indian companies. They're also saying that there would be gains to unscrupulous elements who manufacture and sell illegal tobacco products, because then they don't have to put these larger warnings on their packets. So therefore, this becomes discriminatory then. And that 85% display is too harsh and will result in the flooding of illicit cigarettes in the country. How do you respond to these arguments?
First of all, the constitution of this parliamentary committee is itself bad in law, because the parliamentary committee consists of members who have conflicting interest, and that is against the provisions of this FCTC, the international treaty the India signed with the other countries. Number one. Number two, the expert says that it has harmful effects upon the health, and due to which more than 10 lakhs people die every year in the country, and this fact is also recognized by Supreme Court. And I fail to understand why the government is not giving cognizance to Parliament Committee of Rajya Sabha, which has given its report on 3rd September 2013, by which the committee recommended 90% pictorial health warning on both of the sides. Because the government is all under the pressure of the tobacco lobby. That is why it is ignoring all these reports previously given by the parliamentary committee and both the Supreme Court, and that is why they are not keen to implement the rules and act of COTPA Act into prospects.
Dinesh Trivedi, respond to this. We seem to come back to the question of lobbies and how much influence they have when it comes to policy making on tobacco.
Well, that's evident. That's in front of us. I'll tell you. Let's get into it. Then what is the solution? Let's talk about the solution. I want to bring in the Honorable Prime Minister, and I want to appreciate his efforts in selling in advertisement also that हमारी माँ बेटियाँ चूल्हे के सामने बैठती है और चूल्हे के धुएं से वो पीड़ित है. So Honorable Prime Minister also must understand कि ये सिगरेट का धुआं या टोबैको का धुआं या टोबैको चूना उतनी ही पीड़ित है. So there is a problem as far as the farmers are concerned, and that's a real issue. So what is the solution? When I was the health ministry, I had suggested to the Honorable Sharad Pawar, who was the agriculture minister.
Yes.
I said that let's work on a 10-year period. Every year you reduce the production of tobacco by 10% and give those farmers a subsidy or alternate crop. So at the end of
What
10
if an
years, there will
alternate
be no
crop
tobacco.
isn't possible, as is the case in Karnataka?
Why it is possible? Every year you reduce it by 10%.
Right.
I'm not telling that overnight you
Yes.
ban it.
Okay.
10 years. And you give them some kind of subsidy for every year you ban, or an alternate cap. So na rahega baas, na bajegi bansuri.
Very well
All
said.
right.
I think
I
it's
think
fantastic.
we will have to leave it at that.
Very
Really,
well said, yeah.
talking about solutions at the end of this discussion, solutions perhaps the best way forward here. But thank you all for joining us on this discussion tonight.